you? Today we are going to be making a Doritos chicken casserole, or you could call it a chicken Doritos casserole, or whatever you want to call it. I have the best thing in the world if you ever want to learn how to cook or bake anything. A church cookbook. These things are wonderful. This is one from a Baptist church. It's called Cooking at the Gate. Now this cookbook has all kinds of recipes in it. You have main dishes, breads, desserts, miscellaneous things. You have all kinds of recipes in here. And that's where I found a recipe for Doritos chicken casserole. Now I can't really link to a website for this recipe because it's in this book that's about 20 years old. So I'm going to just include this recipe in the description, and you'll have to just like print it out or write it down or something. You'll have to do it, like we did in the olden times. Like you'll have to take an extra step or something to obtain the recipe. But I will go ahead and put it into the description. I will just type it up for you and put it in there because you could probably find the recipe somewhere online. So we're going to go over how to make Doritos chicken casserole. And we were reading these recipes the other night in a separate video, and somebody said it sounded like a King Ranch casserole. There's actually a recipe in here for that. I did find a recipe for a King Ranch casserole in here, so they even have that in here. But this one is so easy. Oh my goodness, you won't believe how easy this is. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about casseroles. You might say, what is there to know about casseroles? Well, I wanted to tell you what I like about casseroles. I like to make recipes for things that are pretty easy to make. I think a lot of people grew up not really learning how to cook or bake anything. I know I did. My mom never taught me how to cook anything. And everything I've had to learn, I learned on my own. And it can be kind of intimidating if you've never done it before. So I try to pick recipes that, number one, they're easy to do, and number two, they typically don't require weird ingredients that might be hard to find. It's pretty basic stuff. But I have to tell you about casseroles. I didn't have my first casserole until I was probably, and that's not a euphemism, I'm literally talking about casseroles. I didn't have my first casserole until I was in probably middle school. My mom would cook. She would prepare meals that my dad liked. Whatever he liked, she would make. My dad hates casseroles. He won't eat them. He hates them. He despises casseroles. He will not eat any kind of casserole. He will not eat it. So my mom never made casseroles. And I don't think I actually had any type of casserole until I maybe went to spend the weekend at a friend's house in middle school. And I think I had one friend that I think her mom used to make casseroles sometimes. And I do remember having a casserole at her house one night for dinner. And that was the first time I had ever encountered a casserole in real life. I had seen them on TV shows. I was aware of the existence of casseroles, but I had never had one. And I always kind of wanted to try it because I wanted to be like the kids in the sitcoms back in the 80s when I was growing up, and they would complain about having casserole again. Oh, it's this kind of casserole, that kind of casserole, but I had never had any, and I was curious. But casseroles are great because number one, they're easy to make. Number two, they're hard to screw up. Number three, you can substitute stuff. If you look at a casserole recipe and either you don't have the certain ingredients or you want to substitute, you can. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. You might have a recipe and you just kind of tweak it over the years and you put different stuff in it and find that you like it better with a little bit of this or that. And also, it's a great way to use up leftovers. If you have any kind of leftover stuff, you could make a list of the leftovers you have and go online. You could just Google recipes for and then just list the stuff you have. And probably a lot of casseroles are going to pop up. It is a wonderful way to use up leftovers. It's fabulous. There are a million turkey casserole recipes that you can look at like after Thanksgiving or something. So many. If you're sick of turkey, you could try it in a casserole. It's a little different. So we're going to go over what we need here for this Doritos chicken casserole. The first thing you're going to need is 2 cups of cubed chicken breast, cubed chicken. It just says cubed chicken, so it could be whatever kind of chicken. So say you had some chicken, like I have this pack here of these boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I get these at Aldi. These are $3.99 a pound for the small packs. But if you get the really big packs, I think it's only like $2.99 a pound. You can get boneless, skinless chicken breasts like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cook like half of this. Like I'll do one of these and maybe a half of another one. And I'm going to save the rest because I'm going to use the rest for something I'm going to make tomorrow night. So I'm going to just go ahead and we're going to prepare this, and we're just going to boil it. I don't think it really matters how you cook it. You can cook it any way you want to. It just says it needs to be cooked. So whatever method you want to use, I'm just going to boil it, and that will cook it. So you need 2 cups of cooked cubed chicken breast. You need 1 10-ounce can of cream of chicken soup, undiluted. And I have Campbell's cream of chicken soup here, but you can use store brand. It doesn't matter. It doesn't say it has to be any particular brand of cream of chicken soup. So you're not going to dilute it. You're just going to take the whole can. You also need 8 ounces of sour cream. I just got some Great Value original sour cream. This is from Walmart. It's just a little 8-ounce container of sour cream. You could use the light if you want to. I just got the regular. You need a half of an onion chopped fine. And I just have a white onion here, and we're just going to take half of it and save the other half for something else. And it doesn't say what kind of onion. You could use whatever kind, or you could leave it out altogether if you want to. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to take half of this and chop it up. You need a teaspoon of chili powder. And I'm going to tell you, Walmart has the nicest little line of stuff like this. These are only $1 for these little containers here. So if you're new to cooking and you don't want to put a lot of money into it, you can buy these little spices right here. They're totally decent. So this is our chili powder. It was $1. So you need chili powder, salt and pepper. You also need a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. This was also $1. They have all kinds of stuff like this for $1 in these little plastic containers right here. So especially if you're just starting out, you don't have to go spend tons of money on expensive spices, because I know some of them can be really expensive. These are very inexpensive, and you get a lot. I mean, that's quite a bit. You're not going to need anywhere near this much. You can make a lot with just these 2 things right here, and this $1 each. It's awesome. You also need 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. So I just picked up some medium cheddar, but you can, if you have a block of cheddar cheese, you can grate that or whatever. I just picked up some Great Value medium cheddar cheese. I think this is 2 cups. So I'm going to need about half of this little bag here. And these are great because you can reseal these. You just remove this top right up here, and then you can reseal it. It has the little zipper seal. So I can use this the rest of the cheese for something else. And you also need 1 cup of mozzarella cheese. So again, I'm going to need about half of this container of Great Value mozzarella cheese. This was just the smallest thing of it they had, but we don't use a lot of mozzarella cheese, but I'll put it on a frozen pizza or something. I don't know. The recipe also says that you need a medium bag of Doritos. Now this recipe book was published back in 2003. I guess I could go online and figure out how big a medium bag of Doritos was in 2003. I just grabbed a bag of Doritos at the store. Look, it's made to look retro. Do you remember when bags of Doritos looked like this? I do. I remember when they looked like this. This is just a regular bag of Doritos here. It just has the old style cover on it there. So I don't know if this is considered a medium bag or not, but you're going to take some Doritos and you're going to crush them up. You're going to do 1 layer of Doritos on the bottom and then put some stuff in, and then you crushed Doritos and then put the stuff in, and then you crush another layer and put it over that, And then you're going to put all the cheese on top of that second layer of crushed Doritos. And then we're going to bake everything. And from looking at it, it's a really quick recipe to make. It only has to bake for 15 to 20 minutes. So I think the part that would take the longest would be cutting up the onion, and if you have to cook the chicken, you have to do that. Just kind of assembling everything. I think that would probably take the longest. You could have this whole thing done in a half hour. So it's really great, and it's a great way to use up stuff that you might have in the refrigerator. It's not expensive ingredients, and you can get a nice little dish out of these ingredients here. So these are just taco flavor. They're just regular Doritos, and we're gonna crush them up. I'm gonna crush them up. Now I'm going to introduce you to every Southerner's friend. It's the 9x13 casserole dish, complete with lid. This is a Pyrex dish. It has handles on it, so you can swing it and hit that annoying aunt that always asks you if you're going to have any more kids or not. After you get to a certain age, though, they stop asking, or they die. It's one of the two, but eventually you get some relief. So here we have our 9x13 Pyrex dish. These are not terribly expensive. Now, of course, there are different brands that may be more expensive. I like Pyrex or Anchor Hocking. They just hold up great, and they're not terribly expensive. You do not have to go out and buy a bunch of expensive stuff, especially if you're just starting to learn how to cook and bake stuff. You really don't. You can go to Walmart and get something like this pretty cheap. So, and it comes with the lid, and you can get these hot or cold packs. I love these. Pyrex, Corningware, Corelle. These packs, you can either freeze it to keep it cold, or you can stick it in the microwave to make it hot. And you put this in your carry case for your dish. They make these little carry cases for your dishes. I have a couple of them. And you put this in the bottom of your dish, and you put the dish on top of it, and it will either keep it hot or cold, whichever you want it to do. I had a roommate when I was in college who was very confused by that concept. I've mentioned this before. I bought, either I had a thermos or she had a thermos, and there was a little label on the outside that says it keeps your drink hot for this long, cold for this long, and she was very confused. She said, how does it know which to do? Bless her heart. So these things are great. I have several of these. So if you want it to be frozen, you just slap it in the freezer for a while before you need it. And then it's ready to go and keep your dish cold if that's what you want it to do. So the first thing we need to do is spray our casserole dish, the inside of it, with a nonstick cooking spray. So we'll go ahead and do that first, and then we'll move on to the other steps. All right, now I'm just going to boil this chicken. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just have a little pot here, just a little pot with some water in it. I took one piece and I cut it in half, and then I have half of another piece. I tried to get most of the fat off here. It really doesn't matter. You can remove it now, or you can remove it after you cook it. Now, you do not have to cook your chicken this way. As long as you get it done, that's all that matters. How you get there doesn't. It's a casserole out of a church cookbook. Do not stress over it. So I'm going to put this in here. I'll just drop them in the water. Now this is a very simple way to cook chicken. I don't have anything in there but water. This is just the way I have done it forever. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to let it cook thoroughly. Now it does take a little bit. You know, you don't have to sit here and watch it the whole time, but you want to just check it periodically. Now what you'll notice first as it cooks, this water will start to turn kind of white, like it starts to look kind of milky. And just make sure it doesn't boil over. You don't want to have the heat turned up so high that it boils over. I always make sure to bring it to a boil, you know, and you do want to let it boil, but you want to make sure it doesn't boil over. So you want to keep an eye on it. You don't have to stand here and watch it the entire time. I mean, I don't. But while it's cooking, you can go ahead and cut up your onion. You can get your other stuff ready. But as this chicken heats up, you will notice that the color of the water will start to change. It will go from clear to kind of milky. And then as the chicken approaches, doneness, as it gets closer to being done, the water will go clear again. But there will be oil on the top. Just from the chicken, you'll see some oily, stuff on the top. So that's just how it goes. That's just the process of cooking it. So you don't really have to do anything special. I don't add any salt or anything to the water. I just leave it like that. So we're going to go ahead and let it start to heat up. Oh, look at that. It's rocking and rolling. It's getting ready to boil. You can see it's kind of acting up. We have this white foam on the top. That's totally normal if it looks like that. It's bubbling a little bit here and there, especially right there. Oh, look at that. Don't stick your finger in there, it's hot. But it's going to bubble around. Now, the outside of the chicken will start to look white instead of like that pinkish color. It'll start to look white. That doesn't mean it's done. The only way you're going to know it's done, what I do, I'll take it, and when I think it's done, I'll take it out and cut it in half in the thickest part and see if it's white all the way through. If it's not, you need to put it back in there and let it cook some more. That to me is the best way to do it. You could use a meat thermometer. Personally, I want to see it. I want to look at the chicken all the way through and make sure it's cooked completely through. You want to make sure that chicken is completely cooked. You do not want it to be uncooked, because that way you can get sick eating uncooked chicken. Oh, look at it. It's getting violent. Now when it starts doing that, you need to turn the heat down or it'll boil over. You can also set a wooden spoon across the top of the pot, or you can lift it off the burner for a second. But as soon as you set it down, now I have turned the heat down, but as soon as you set it down, it's going to start coming up like that. Ooh. Now I did cut it so it's smaller pieces so it'll cook faster. I've turned my heat down. Now the chicken is starting to look white, and that foam will stay on there. You have to just clear that away later, but it's starting to look white, but I know from experience that it's not done yet. You have to let it keep on going. And when you think it's done, you want to take the thickest part. You want to cut the piece that's the thickest and go all the way through the thickest part to see and just make sure that it's cooked and it's white. You don't have any of that pink in it anywhere. It's not like steak. You can't eat it with, that pink part in the middle. You want to make sure chicken is completely cooked. See, now it's calming down because I turned the burner down. It's still bubbling though. It's bubbling a little bit. You've got a lot of steam. You could do a nice little facial right here. Stick your face down over there. Don't get too close, that'll hurt. But I'm gonna let it cook a little longer, and then we will check it. Okay, I believe this chicken is done. So I have a clean fork and a knife, and I'm just gonna dig around in here, and I'm gonna stab the thickest piece. And I have just a plate here. Now you're going to take it out. You see how it looks all nice? It's just white, like all around. But you cannot really tell if it's done until you cut into it. So the meat kind of has a grain to it, like it has a direction that it goes in. I'm just going to cut and look in here. And Pumpkin is down here very excited. She wants me to give her some of this. She hardly ever talks, but if I make chicken, she's down here talking to me right now. She really wants some of this. I'll give her a little bit, but so it looks like that piece is done, and that was the thickest one. So there. Let's just cut that. Yeah, there's a little bit there, but that's not raw meat. That's just a little bit of a vein or something. It's not pink. Okay, I think I can get 2 cups of cubed chicken out of here. Now I cut most of the fat off before I put it in the pot, but if you have any little bits of fat left, you can trim those off at this point. Yeah, see, it's all good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cube this up. Oh, I discovered a very important thing while this was cooking. Something you always want to remember, whether you've been cooking for one day or 100 years, always read the instructions for the recipe. I saw that this was for a casserole. I just assumed it was a 9 by 13 casserole dish. It is not. This recipe requires a 2-quart casserole dish, which is like 8 inches square. So I almost used the wrong casserole dish for this. So it would have been very thin. So this does require a 2-quart casserole dish, not a big 9 by 13. So please disregard that. Although it is good to have a 9 by 13 casserole dish, because if you get into making casseroles, I promise you will use it a lot. You may even want to go out and buy multiple 9 by 13 casserole dishes if you're planning on, really getting into making food and stuff. So it said the chicken has to be cubed. I'm just going to cut it up into just little bite-sized pieces. And Pumpkin is down here giving me her big eyes, looking like Oliver Twist down here on the floor. She loves chicken. And I will make sure to give her some of this. This is not the best knife in the world. It needs to be sharpened. But anyway, I'm going to cut this up. We're going to get 2 cups of that, and then we're going to grease our smaller casserole dish, because casserole dishes do come in different sizes. Don't just assume it's a 9 by 13 like I did. I'm glad I looked at the instructions, because the instructions clearly state that this is for a 2-quart casserole dish, which is not a 9 by 13. It's quite a bit smaller. So pay attention to the instructions. All right, I'm going to cut this up and then we will move on. All right, now we are back with our it's roughly a 2-quart casserole dish. This is the smallest one I have personally. I think it'll be fine. So do keep in mind, like I said, this recipe does call for a 2-quart casserole dish. And it says you want to grease, or you just want to coat the dish on the inside. So I have my Carlini Original Canola Oil Spray from Aldi. And I'm just going to spray the inside of it. And then we're just going to set this aside for now. And I cannot go any further without showing you my bowls. Look at these. Now these are colorful mixing bowls, 4 different sizes, from Zak Designs, Z-A-K exclamation point. I found these at an antique store, but they're not antiques. And they're pretty. Look at that. We never use this bowl. I need to find a recipe where I can specifically use this bowl, because we almost never use it. For the most part, we just use the largest one and the green one. Sometimes we get to use the blue one. I think today we'll be using, I think we'll use the largest one today. But I found these in an antique store, like I said, but you can also get them online. You can find them on Amazon, and they have different colored sets. It's the same bowls, but they have them in different colors. Personally, I think this set is my favorite. It's just so pretty. So what we're going to need to do at this point is mix together in here everything except for the cheeses. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put in our 2 cups of chicken. It says that it needs to be cubed. I just cut it into some bite-sized pieces. You also need 1 can of cream of chicken soup, undiluted. And it's very thick, so if you've never dealt with this stuff before, it almost looks like banana pudding. Look, or vanilla pudding. It's very thick. You just kind of have to scoop it out. It's very gelatinous and vaguely disgusting, but tasty. Kind of like my first husband. Let me put that in there. I'm just trying to get all that goodness out of the can. I'm sure there's a more clever way to get it out. I just keep scooping until it gets out of there. So we got that. We want to add our 8 ounces of sour cream. And I'm going to be gross and just use the same thing. Because sour cream is also very thick. Oops. Okay. We have our half of an onion. I'm going to add a teaspoon of chili powder. Ooh, very colorful. Chili powder. Half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of pepper. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And it said not to add the cheese, so that is everything. We're just going to stir that up. Okay. That looks pretty good to me. Smells pretty good. You can really smell the onions and the cream of chicken soup. Now, we have to crush some Doritos. Now, sometimes I do not include certain sounds in my videos. That is because, to me, they are much too sharp and much too loud, and I include them or eliminate them at my own discretion. I'm going to crush up, this is roughly half of that bag of Doritos, and I just put them into a gallon-sized bag here. And I have a rolling pin, which I almost never get to use except for threatening a child. It's just, I'm kidding. And so I thought I would just try to roll it over. I think it's going to be much too loud to include, but you can crush your chips up any way you want. You can just take your fist and take out all of your frustration on these chips if you want. You could take a glass container and crush them with that. Yeah, that's going to be way too loud. You can pick up the bag and squish them. You can crush them up any way you want to. Now I'm going to try this. Okay, it was incredibly effective, but very loud, so I will not be including that. So what we want to do now is take our crushed Doritos and put them into the bottom of the baking dish. I'm just going to pour them in there. Yummy. Okay, and now what we need to do is take this mixture and put it over the top of that. It seems to hold together very well. Okay, I'm going to spread this out. Try to even it up. There we go. Okay. I now have the second half of the Doritos in this bag here. And again, it is incredibly loud. Even just doing it like that is loud. So I'm just gonna go for it. There we go. Look at that. And you know, just as a side note, I know a lot of people wish I would keep certain sounds in the video, but trust me when I say if I take them out, there is a reason. More of you would be angry if I left it in. Okay. So now we're going to take, this is the second half of that bag of Doritos. We're going to take it and just put it over the top of this. Just going to take a little silicone spatula and just kind of spread them out. And you can substitute anything here if you wanted to use potato chips or corn chips, crackers. I mean, you could even try different flavors of Doritos. That's the wonderful thing about casseroles is that you can just keep playing with the recipe and changing it and trying different stuff. One thing I thought might be good was after you put the cheese on top, or even right here, sprinkle a little bit of taco seasoning on here. That might be pretty good, but I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay, now it says to add the cheese. You don't have to add it in any particular order. Just add the cheese to the top, all over the top of this. That's a lot of cheese. This is our mozzarella we're going with first. There's that. Then we're going to do the cheddar. You can use whatever kind of cheese. You can even play around with the different types of cheese. Just spread it a little bit. Now, that's all the preparation. And now we're going to bake this at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 to 20 minutes. And then we'll come back and see how it looks. All right, here we have it. It smells wonderful. So I have left it in there for 20 minutes. And it's nice and bubbly and pretty. It's nice and warm. It smells, honestly, it kind of smells like those fiestadas things that you used to get in the school cafeteria. It smells just like that. We made those in a video once, and my kids still love it. We still make those. Oh yeah, they discovered that they loved it. But it smells just like that. I'm just going to get a little bit. I'm actually giving this to somebody, so I don't want to take a whole lot, but we're going to sample just a smidge of this. Oh, it comes out all crumbly. Look, there's the Doritos. I didn't get all my Doritos. I want all my Doritos. Just a little taste, because yes, I'm giving this to somebody, but we can try it though. Look at that. Let's see how it tastes. Okay, we are all ready to try our Doritos chicken casserole. It smells good. It smells really good. I mean, you can definitely smell the Doritos in it and the chili powder. It does kind of, with the cheese and everything, it really does smell like those fiestadas that they have at school. It smells just like that. but it turned out really pretty. It's nice and hot and bubbly. Mmm. Mmm. All right, so like I said, I am giving that away. But we have an opportunity to taste it first. So you have the crunchy little bits of Doritos in there. So you're going to have some on the top or right under the cheese and the bottom. I want to try a little bit of that crunchy Dorito stuff. It retains a lot of its crunchiness. I would imagine it's because, you know, the stuff in the middle is not terribly runny. It's not going to leak down in there and make it softer, really. It was kind of gelatinous, as you could see. So the Doritos stay nice and crunchy, even on the top. Let's try the middle part. Oh, I got a piece of chicken. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, that's wonderful. That's really good. I like it. It's kind of like comfort food. But like I was saying, I never tried a casserole until I was in middle school, probably. And I was blown away by how good it was. And I couldn't understand why the kids in the sitcoms all complained about having casserole because I thought it was delicious. I don't remember what kind it was, but it was good. Mmm. Now the cheese is kind of all stuck together, so you might need to have a way to cut this here, cut the cheese. You need a knife or something. The only thing I don't like about this casserole is that to me it's a little too salty because you have the Doritos and the cheese and the cream of chicken stuff. It just, to me, it's a little too salty. So instead of just using Doritos, I might mix in like some unsalted crackers or something to still give you that crunch, but not have it be quite so salty. So just for my personal taste, I think it's a little bit too salty, but it's still really good. It's very good. It's just like a nice comfort food. Super easy to make. There's nothing to it. And again, the beauty of casseroles is that you can make them ahead of time. You could get everything together and stick it in the refrigerator and then bake it later in the day or the next day or whatever. You can reheat it and, you know, have leftover casseroles with your leftovers in it. It's a good way to use up stuff. And if you're new to cooking, if you've never done much baking or cooking, it's a great way to start. You could just go online and start looking up casserole recipes and find some that look good to you. There are tons of vegetarian and vegan casserole recipes if you want to do it that way. Or if you like chicken or beef or, you know, whatever seafood, there are tons of casserole recipes for whatever you're interested in. So there are even dessert casseroles that you can make. So there's really no limit to it. It's a wonderful medium for food delivery, I think. And it's quick, it's easy. They're kind of hard to mess up. You don't have to be super precise most of the time, which I'm a big fan of that because I don't like having to be super precise when I cook. I just kind of do whatever. And I think it's wonderful. But yeah, Doritos chicken casserole. If you want to try it, I will put the recipe down in the description for you and you can check it out. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed getting to see this lovely little dish come into being today. It's quite nice, and I am giving it to someone to enjoy for dinner tonight. we're having soup and sandwiches tonight. But thank you so much for being here. I really hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again really soon.